The last time they scored 5 goals, it took them 9 games.
And the game starts as soon as they score. The loudness, we're talking about 300-400 decibel. Your eardrums, they just... I'm serious. They pop out.
The Napoli fans and the Napoli as a city, what it means to be, always looked on as if you're worthless.
So that was the past. Now is the present.
This guy's talking about nonsense.
Now they forgot about what happened on the past.
All right, get it all out of your system now, so we're going to start again.
You're saying a lot of nothing
Forgot
right
about
now.
what happened on the past. Sima Napoli, Paisa means now is our time.
Got it.
Okay,
Got
you
it,
get
got
that?
Are we good to start the podcast?
Yeah, Nicky, start.
We're going to start now.
Jeez.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Italian Football TV
You got
podcast.
thirsty for that speech.
Yeah, we had Antonio go on a 5-minute and 59-second rant, but we're going to leave that in the past, and we're going to look to the future, which is, I think, in the end, what he was trying to translate, more or less,
Nostro Antonio.
in Napoletan. So,
Predict the future, no?
you're wearing the nice Napoli blue.
Beautiful.
We saw you two yesterday partying with all the Napoli fans after the win against Roma. I saw you jumping like a lunatic at the Chi non salta Juventino chants.
Yeah, because hey, anytime that you want to get hit Juventus or Inter, I mean, always on.
But a lot of people asking, you guys were partying with the Napoli fans, but you're not Napoli fans.
Oh.
Well, I am a Napoli sympathizer. I'm not a fan, but I'm a sympathizer. Because Napoli is the owner. The De Laurentiis are the owner of Bari.
Yeah.
So Bari is my team too. And
Well, you better be careful. If he wins with Napoli, he might sell Bari.
It's okay. For now, that means that Napoli is winning. A lot of the money they're going to translate to make a Bari coming to the top.
How about you?
Well, why was I there celebrating?
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
People wondering.
it was a great day. It was a great atmosphere. You get to see how the Neapolitans, which are special people in their way, how they celebrate. They started singing before the game started. All Neapolitan. So I love Neapolitan music, by the way. And I love Pino Daniele, so they were singing all kinds of songs, and everybody. They had people from Washington, Philadelphia, Atlanta,
Toronto,
and then what was the other place?
Tri-State.
Yeah, Connecticut,
Cachapita or something like that.
Whatever.
Massapequa?
Yeah, they're all over, from all over the United States.
No,
actually,
it's
where Scaralelia or Caralelia,
Georgia.
was born.
Kvaratskhelia.
Georgia.
Oh, in Georgia.
I thought you were saying Massapequa.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
know
what
what
you're
you're
talking
talking
about.
Massapequa is a Long Island, Mike. Come on.
Gaetano knows Massapequa.
You know Massapequa too?
So it was
You
it was a nice day to celebrate with them, and then what happened is every time they score a goal, wow, they really went wild. And like I said before, the Juventini got abused, and the Romanista got abused.
It's expected though, right?
But
Did the Roma fans get abused?
Yeah.
There were Roma fans
There
there?
were Roma fans in the
No.
Ribalta?
No.
Actually, I saw Dwayne.
Wayne.
Wayne, I'm sorry, Wayne.
You think
I saw Wayne.
But
Yeah, he was there.
But the chance.
Was he wearing a Roma shirt?
The chance.
Because they were saying Chi non salta giallo rosso,
No.
Something else.
Other
Oh,
stuff.
boy.
Roma.
Okay.
Roma, something that you cannot say. Something different.
MERDA.
Yeah. Roma merda.
Well, you can.
Okay.
You can erase it.
Nick, you don't have to cut this off.
No, you can leave it. You can
So
leave it.
so they got abused, but so I there was only a few people that knew me.
But he was a Roma fan.
And that they were looking. Juventino is over there.
They were pointing you out.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But your team used to be Roma. Were you a little bit? Did you just get lost in the moment with the Napoli fans?
Yeah. I mean, like I have said it before. I've been in this country for 50 years. I always have cheered for the Italian teams. So any Italian team that went in the Champions League, European League, when I watch the game during the week, I always cheer for them. So whether it was Milan, Inter, Roma, Juventus, whoever it was, Fiorentina, if they play in Europe, I'm not one of those tifoso that Juventus is playing or Milan is playing. They're from Inter. They rather the Liverpool wins rather than.
That's right. That's why I'm one of them. I am one of them. That's right, Paisa. You got it right.
Yeah, I think that's. But I guess if you talk to the tifosi, that's the way, that's the way it
That's
is.
how they live.
So my
yeah.
But
question-
I didn't grow up there. I grew up here. So to me,
He's not a real tifoso, him.
I am very proud when a team, an Italian team, does well. And I cheered for Maradona with Napoli. I loved Roma with Falcao. I loved Juventus with Platini. I loved Milan with Gullit and
Van Basten.
And Rijkaard.
Red card, the yellow card, yeah.
So my question to you is, it's now 13 points for Napoli. I think that this was the moment where, even prior to this, I kept saying, can they still slip up? There's still a chance for teams like Milan, Inter, and Juventus. Now, so much has happened since then. Not only have Napoli been so amazing, I think also the teams below them have shown that they are not serious contenders. The Napolitani, they're still very superstitious. But I saw bottles being popped. I saw singing. I saw disco. I saw you guys take down, you stopped a street in the middle of New York City. There, in Ribalta, with all these Napoli fans, did they feel like the Scudetto
It is.
was
The
going to
magic
be
is in the
theirs?
hair. The magic is in the hair. I'll tell you.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
The way they were celebrating and singing, they already won the Scudetto. And La Capolista, what were they saying?
La Capolista se ne va.
Yeah.
La Capolista se ne va.
La Capolista se ne va. Se ne va. La Capolista se ne va. So no,
That's what they were singing
It was-
yesterday. So
yeah.
I think that's pretty much.
it was explosive, the atmosphere, explosive. I mean, you can just the tension before the game, and then the game starts. As soon as they score, the loudness. We're talking about 300-400 decibel. Your eardrums, they just. I'm serious. They pop out.
We're talking about jet planes or something.
Oh my God! I should have taken the sound leader with me.
He's so accurately.
Pete, what the hell are you laughing about? You were not there.
Where'd you get this metric from, though?
I know. I studied engineering and physics. What do you think? I'm a Greek.
What does that have to do with it?
Philosopher, you're a philosopher.
Listen, Mike, I'm telling you, if you were in Ribalta yesterday and you were at the first goal when Napoli scored, even the
crazy.
second goal, I think the place was coming down. It was cracking everything. I mean, the loudness, Pete, off the chart.
Pete, how do you feel? Forget about the atmosphere there. Let's talk about the game. You think that this Napoli side, they've got the Scudetto, it's theirs at this point?
I mean, first, the way that they're playing and the way that they have the style and everything is unbelievable. I mean, Napoli, they're doing it in the Champions League. I mean, we saw the same team beat Liverpool, and the way that they've been playing since the beginning. I mean, it's a record that I think they only matched Inter and Juventus for the amount of wins that they have won in the first half of the season. And it looks like even afterwards, there was they said slip, they lost versus Inter 1-0. Everybody was a little worried that the other teams are going to catch up. But it's been quite the difference where the teams on the bottom have been very poor. Inter, Milan, everyone is slipping up. And Napoli just continue to win and find a way to win. And I think it all comes down to the depth that they have in their team, where, like I said, you look at that bench and you say, any of those guys could be a starter, not just in Serie A, but even for Inter, Juventus, Milan. I mean, you have Raspadori on the bench, Simeone on the bench. Those are guys that when things need to be changed or find a solution,
Elmas.
Even Elmas has been amazing.
You can throw him in. It's been amazing so far. And aside from the market that they were able to do, where they picked up two players that nobody knew who they were, Kim and Kvaratskhelia, and they've been phenomenal. And then you have a midfield that just gels. Like, everything is working right now. And when you take such a lead, I feel like it's very hard for them to lose the Scudetto at this point, where they have pretty much a 4 to 5 game advantage over any team at the current state.
Basically,
Four.
it
Over
is.
4.
Over 4.
And that's
4
also
points.
with all the other teams being perfect.
Exactly. And so now you have to hope that everybody else is going to be perfect, which for me, I don't see that. Even as an Inter fan, I do not see that. And, obviously the fans, you saw in Ribalta, the enthusiasm and I guess the moment that they're realizing right now after 30 somewhat years of nothing, of close but no cigar. And so just the idea of understanding, hey, we can actually do it. I mean, it's probably a remarkable feeling. And anybody that has the chance, not to Ludo would be yelling at me right now, but
Yeah, it's true.
anybody has a chance to book a ticket to Napoli in May or when they should be able to win, should do it.
It's
because
a safe bet.
I
right?
could just imagine.
Yeah.
I could just imagine what that's gonna feel like.
Mike, Peter just mentioned so many different players, which is true because if Napoli wins a Scudetto, it is down to that they were the best squad. And I think as you know, not just the 11 men on the pitch, it's also the guys that are on the bench. If you had to pick out who the player that's been the most instrumental within this Napoli, the most crucial, who do you think it's been? And obviously there's different layers to who you could choose, but if we ask you and then we'll ask everybody around the table, who do you think?
It's tough because they all played. I think they all played fantastically, and I think the biggest point of this Napoli and why they're succeeding, I think their never die attitude. They're all playing as a unit. It really reminds me of flashbacks of Milan for last season. But if I really had to pick one, and a big part of this is because not a lot of people knew him, I got to go with Guevara. Like there's maybe only 1-2 games that you can pick from the season that he's been quiet, and everything else, and that's only because he's been triple teamed, so he doesn't do anything. But everything else, coming into the hardest league in the world to score in at such a young age, coming from Rubin Kazan, a Georgian player that a lot of people weren't familiar with, and just breaking out in the first season, replacing big shoes of the captain Lorenzo Insigne, and performing week in and week out in Europe, Coppa Italia, in Serie A, and doing this with the fans loving you and so much pressure. I just feel like I have to give it to him. Now, there's other players. Osman's been incredible.
We'll get everybody else to say.
I think by a hair, I would have to put Guevara just because no one knew him, and amazing scouting from the department, Giuntoli and ADL for always trusting this team. Everyone's saying, ADL out, but he's really showing he's a good president. This team has no debt. They have one of the lowest wage bills for the top teams in Italy, which is, a lot of people don't talk about.
Even
that.
in Europe too. When we made a graphic one time about all the teams that are in the top, and there's this, besides Arsenal, who Arsenal's also having a spectacular year, they're under, I think it was like 68 million or something like that. I think I'm in agreement with you. I also go Quada for the expectations, but also just when I watch him play, my jaw is left dropped sometimes. The way that he consistently beats his man, the way that he sets up his teammates, and it's put this into my mind because you mentioned it. You mentioned former players, and this is not a knock on Insigne, Mertens, Koulibaly,
Yes, it is.
Fabian Ruiz. I'm saying my point. For me, it's not a knock on them. I think that Napoli has actually benefited, and when you see these sorts of players, and I include Osimhen in this, players that have not been there for so long, maybe, they don't have the battle wounds of what Napoli always says, where their mentality gets to them, right? Or they get so close and then they fall in the end, or in the big moments they let themselves down, because that happened last year as well. I think about the game against Milan that was in Naples when they lost 1-0 and Giroud scored. So I think that by not having that, by not understanding that aspect as much, I think it sort of helped them in a way.
Being more naive, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
In a great way.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
You rejuvenated this team that doesn't have those scars of like always getting close to Juventus,
The
or always getting
trauma.
close
The
to
trauma of
the
that.
others where they hurt themselves. Does anyone else have
I
anyone
wanted to say
besides
one more
Quada?
thing. Yeah, I have for me, it's Lobotka, because it's the spine what counts. For you to be standing, you need a spine. Okay, Lobotka, you start all the time. If your back is not working, nothing is going to happen on the front. Lobotka is the maestro, is the orchestrator, he's the troublemaker. If everything starts from him.
What was the word in Napolitan that you said for troublemaker? For rascal?
Rascal.
But it's a bit worse.
Yeah,
than
but
that.
Lobotka is a real guy. The guy, I'll tell you what.
Peter's like, I think that's how you say it.
His geometries are perfect. His movement on the field, his passing, his timing, it's the top.
He's an
for me.
architect, right?
What's
Like you
more-
are, though.
It's a bad word?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
man.
it's not.
What does it say, Anthony?
But it
can cut
can
it
be.
out.
It can be a.
Molinari's like, should I cut?
It can be a good word.
It can be found in Napolitan language.
Yeah? Okay, what's the
Yeah,
definition?
The word, I know what it means anyway. It means semen.
What? Oh.
What? Oh,
Semen.
Jesus
Oh, okay, we
Christ.
can't
Yeah,
say
what's
that.
wrong with you?
So I know what it means.
All right, we'll
Okay,
bleep
yeah.
that part out.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, definitely
right.
take that out.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
I
It's
was
all right.
like,
Don't
it
give it to
can
me.
mean
He's getting
good.
ready.
That's
What are you doing? You're making
overload over there.
You guys are not Napoletani. You have to interpret the word on the positive
We'll call
side.
Ludo
Okay?
after. We'll call Ludo
Peter,
after.
who's it
asking.
been for you?
Oh my
Listen,
God.
I think, those two players are fantastic, but Osimhen for me is just an animal. Okay, he is all over the place. He is able to be a disruptor, to be the first line of defense. The guy attacks everything, presses everywhere. And I know people are gonna say, "Oh, but when he was out, Napoli was still able to win with Raspadori and Simeone," which, granted, by all means, they did, and they were able to, and that also shows the continuity and the team effort. Spalletti, what he's been able to do with this team. But Osimhen, the goals that he scored the first time versus Roma, and then yesterday, to be able to have the composure and even the idea to process instead of going with your head to score, to chest, knee, and blast it is unbelievable. And I think there's very few strikers in the world that have his ability. He looks at times a little rough around the edges, but you just see his work rate is unbelievable, and it's something to admire. And I think it leaves a good impression for the rest of the team, knowing that the guy that's supposed to just put the ball in the back of the net is also working from side to side, trying to get every last piece that he can find. I mean, even I was looking at during the same game, the ball was out on the sideline, and this guy was able to put his other leg behind it and run after the ball. Like he had to get that ball. And I think that mentality is something that translates into the Napoli team, but more importantly, the Napoli fans and the Napoli as a city. What it means to be always looked on as if you're worthless, right? So the person that is but that's the truth. Unfortunately, within Italy, Napoli, if they're going to dub the criminal, like when they do a movie and they're dubbing he's speaking in a Neapolitan dialect. So already it's looked as if you're not good enough. So what do you have to do if you're not good enough? You have to work harder than the rest of the people. Yeah. And so that mentality and that ability, I think, has led this perfect situation for Napoli. And I really, even as an Inter fan, for them, you have to tip your hat and say, hey, this is your year and you deserve it.
Listen, too bad he wears a mask. I'm gonna finish up what Peter was saying. Too bad he wears a mask. If you see his motivation and his drive to go over what his body's asking him to do, that's what we don't see in other player. Look at Kvara when he's on the ball, when he actually misses something or something like that. He's angry at himself. It's always he's there. He's just smelling
even on
blood.
the sideline. What shocked me is, you see Osimhen on the sideline. He's their number one fan, and he's also a supporter. And sometimes you get one or the other. It's either when you have two strikers or three strikers that are great. Sometimes they really support each other, which you see with Osimhen and Raspadori and Simeone, that they're biggest fans because they want the team to win. It could also be negative effects where you see they're in such competition, and the fact that I see him on the sideline standing up, running to get the ball, it's just such a brilliant thing to see because he's such an unbelievable player, but he's also a great teammate. Who would you go for? I know we mentioned the three main players, but who would you pick?
This team is is built so perfect right now, and it's playing so perfect that if I have to get one, I would get Spalletti. I think I would give a lot of credit to Spalletti. I thought when they came back from the World Cup and they lost to Inter, I say, here it comes again. Spalletti is not going to make it. But then he showed me in the last couple of games, against Juventus yesterday, Spalletti is moving up to being one of the top coaches, which we always put him up there, but he always was good enough to bring the team to Champions League, and that was what he was known for. Now he has improved and is in the next level. And I really have to say that even yesterday, how do you take Osimhen out yesterday? He took him out. He took him out.
Very ballsy.
He took him out and he put Simeone. The guy
paid off.
Simeone paid off. He was unbelievable. So even those moves, which in the past I don't know if we would have had the guts to do it, yesterday he did it, and he's proving. I think he's the top reason why they're playing so good.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride is something that was always said about Spalletti. And I think it definitely is. Obviously, we're picking out specific points, but they would be nothing without all of each other. I truly believe that. I think you could see specific players go on and do this, but you would not see this beautiful play. Now, we gave Napoli their shine. We're 20 minutes into this. I want to say to the other side, the Roma side, I have to admit, Roma were amazing. I thought Roma played a great match. They have nothing to be ashamed of in this game. And I firmly believe that sometimes it's okay. Like, you do everything right, but when the other team is better, it's fair to say that. Napoli are in a different league of their own from every team in Serie A. Maybe they've gotten caught up a couple times against Lecce, against Inter, whatever the case will be. Roma played it so perfectly from the start of the match. They made that one mistake where they got caught out on the goal. They got back into the game, and I love the spirit that they showed in the second half. And they were fighting into the last minutes. This Roma team has character. They played the right way. Yes, you can nitpick and say the mistakes that were made on each of the goals. No team is perfect. It's very hard to get a perfect team. And I really just want to compliment Roma for the way that they played, the style that they played. The only little things, and these are things that I think are good for the future. Once I saw Tahirovic and I see Bove come in, young players, and I know it's contradictory because we give praise when they play the youngsters. In that moment, I said to myself, oh gosh, do you really want to put these kids in at 1-1 in this moment? Now, he trusts his young kids. He's played them many times, Mourinho. This is his philosophy at Roma. And he doesn't have many other options because Matic, I think he had nothing left in the tank. Yeah. So that's one thing that I just didn't like to see. Yeah. But from the rest of it, Roma, amazing match. This team can really do something. They still are in the Coppa Italia, which I think that they could win. And I really think that they will win it. And next year, they have the building blocks to do something special because this team has character.
Yeah, Marco, I agree. They're definitely in the race for top 4 also on top of the Coppa Italia. I think no one's secure, not even Milan secure for top 4. It's all there's 3 spots open. Napoli's obviously first, and there's 3 more spots to whoever's gonna play. But Roma, they play good. There was like a 20-25 minute period where they kept bombing forward. Napoli looked like in trouble until they conceded the goal, but it could have been worse. But the same thing that stuck with me with Roma, that's the factor of them not securing a top 4 in terms of they haven't cemented it like a team like Napoli securing top 4, is their defensive mistakes still, their defensive liabilities. Up front, they're good, but the 2 goals too, leaving Osimhen, it was very hard.
They had the 4th best defense.
Yeah, I know, but leaving Osimhen like that, I get it was incredible, but you got to be on top of him more. And then Simeone, after there was 2 guys there, they should have closed him a little bit sooner. I know it's nitpicking, but the small details like that.
Smalling screwed up. He thought he was going the other way, and then he turned the other way. Simeone was really
It was a nice move. It was a nice move.
In that case, Smalling, you got to
be on top of him. You can't
right
let it
behind.
You can't let him do that.
You got to be right behind. I mean, he gave him too much space, and he turned. For Roma, I thought in the second half, I'm not a big El Shaarawy fan.
He brings energy.
But I think in the second half, he made that move and he put El Shaarawy on the left side, and he did a good job. I don't know. I would like to get more from Pellegrini.
He's not the same as last season.
Yeah, he's got everything to become a superstar, but he's not. And the other thing is, sell Zaniolo, get your 30-40 million, and get somebody really good from the Premier League. Bring him over and put him up there with.
Give it back to Inter.
With Abraham, I think it would be really special.
Hey, but you want to mention Meret on this team here? Meret, I think he's been.
We're talking about Roma.
Yeah, no, but Roma and Napoli. But Meret, I think
Roma,
everybody's been talking about the people that make a difference.
You called them Butterfingers.
Yeah, I used to call him Butterfinger. I used to call him Butterfinger, but now I have to sit my mouth and I'm going to call him Sticky Finger because nothing goes by. From Butterfinger to Sticky Finger, I think to me, this guy here, it's 1-on-1 with Donnarumma. I think it's probably right now.
Make a comment, but I'm gonna hold it to myself till after.
Right now, I'm no longer not a fan of Donnarumma. I think right now I'm starting to recognize that Meret. I think is up there for the the place on to be Italian goalkeeper.
Anything else about Roma? Anything different than what we said?
Aside from Napoli, Roma would be in the Scudetto race if you look at right in the picture that it is. Napoli has just been amazing. So
Yeah.
I mean, with this Roma team, I'm not saying they should have won the Scudetto from the beginning. Everybody was kind of hyping it with Dybala signing, but we know
False
we knew
expectations,
yeah
though.
we knew
Nobody
that
thought
yeah
that they
we
were
knew
gonna
that
win it.
they the Champions League was the real objective, and I think Mourinho is a coach where people either hate him or love him, whatever the case might be. He has his antics, but he knows what he's doing and he knows how to manage a squad. And I think you have a good mix of experience and also these younger players being able to come into a situation where unfortunately his bench is not as deep as Napoli in yesterday's game, and he's forced to make certain decisions. But I think, like Gaetano said, he put in an El Shaarawy, which is an attacking move compared to having Spinazzola, I think, on that left flank. So you're saying, hey, you know what? If we're gonna go out, we're gonna go out trying to go pound for pound with Napoli, and I think they're right where they're supposed to be. You're allowed to lose versus a very strong Napoli team, and I think for Roma fans, there's nothing to really be upset about in this game, where it's just two moments of real brilliance, if you have to say, from Osimhen and Simeone. So, hats off to them and move on to the next game. But it's important that, like you said, Coppa Italia, you have to be able to perform. And in the Scudetto race or whatever, to get into the Champions League, it's what you do versus the small teams that really make a difference. How can you maintain that energy level and the focus versus the smaller teams? And that's where you're going to see that you're able to grow as a team.
So let's just I want to talk about Juventus and Milan and a little bit of Lazio as well and Inter. But real quick, the Zaniolo situation is just very strange to me. What's happening now? The latest news is that he's going to sit out for 6 months on the sideline. The Friedkins are putting their foot down. They're saying, we're not giving him on any of these cheap loans. We're not selling him for a small amount. He wants to do this. He wants to break away from the squad. He could sit on the sideline for 6 months. If in the summer a team comes and they pay the same amount that Bournemouth was going to pay, because remember, he rejected Bournemouth, then okay, then he could leave. If they don't, they're willing to keep him again and keep him on the bench.
That's
One
How
more
much-
year.
How much was
30 million, around 30 million.
That's a lot of money
30
for
to
somebody
30
like
to
that.
35 million.
Zaniolo's too much money, 30 million.
Well,
Is he
is it that
is he
much?
better than CDK?
No, but it's not better than CDK.
Yes,
That's
he
the
is.
problem. It's not.
oh, come on.
Right now he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
That's
Come on,
not.
who are you kidding?
What
When
did he
is
do?
the final? The
It's
last
better.
day?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
The
Tomorrow.
They
31st.
still got-
31st.
still
What's
got like
today?
a day.
30?
Why don't you guys
31st.
take him back?
So 24 hours.
Yeah. Well,
It doesn't seem likely that anyone is going to come calling.
No,
The only
no.
offers that they have are ones that they're not happy with.
Right.
That Roma's not happy
yeah,
with.
the thing
20
is,
million, I think that they'll sell.
No,
it.
no,
No,
they don't. They're
no.
not selling.
They
for
want
20 million.
matching
yeah,
offer.
the thing is that the teams that are interested in Zaniolo right now they want an option to buy, where
Not obligation.
yeah, whereas Roma want an obligation to buy. So I know his agent has been in London. They've been talking with the different teams, and Zaniolo actually refused Bournemouth. I know.
Yeah, of course.
That's something that and so Roma is saying, hey, if you want it out so badly, this is the price to have paid. But at the same time, I don't see another team knowing that Zaniolo wants out, and especially coming into the summer that he has one more year left on his contract. I do not see another team putting in 30 million.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And don't forget, Zaniolo was supposed to go to Juventus in the summer. There was a very good possibility that he would have went to Juve for around 35, 40 million.
He still might.
So, there's still a chance he probably does.
Why would he go
But
there?
I feel like Juventus, after they did the McKennie deal, I could seriously see them
Where would
trying
he
to
play?
get.
They're not gonna take
Where's he
him.
gonna
They're not gonna
play?
They'll
take
play
him.
him on the right
They
wing.
can definitely.
That's where they were playing.
They
What
can
do you mean?
definitely
You
take
guys have-
Zaniolo.
Yo, Allegri will make him a right wing back. No, the
Please,
what
that
right
bring-
wing back?
make him
That's
play
what Allegri will make him.
Listen, one
I
thing
can
that
definitely
strikes
see
me,
him
Marco,
doing that.
we keep talking about Mourinho. You gotta tell me, if you're a coach of that caliber, you gotta be telling me, why don't you talk to the kid? It's probably something it's not right between him and Mourinho too.
No. The thing was,
If
Zaniolo.
you're a coach of that
Antonio,
caliber, Pete, you're supposed to
Antonio,
be sitting the kid down and talk to the kid.
Zaniolo has been playing. He's been playing every game. He's played 13 games already in the season, aside from his injuries.
But nobody
There
knows what's
hasn't
the
been-
problem with this kid.
The player wants out.
Yes,
The
but
player
what is the
wants out.
reason?
But my thing is, we watched him lift the Europa Conference League Cup 8 months ago, whatever it was, May and June. He scored the winning goal. It seemed like he loved Mourinho. He's always playing. What's he not happy with? Is he not happy with the position he's playing?
He needs a change of scenery, and the fact of the matter is he's been waiting for this salto di qualità. The only problem is he hasn't been able to prove it on the field. So
got one goal, the guy.
The issue is that the player has been known to have whatever these I guess how can I say,
Stints.
not even the stints, but like he has a certain level of arrogance. Don't forget, Mancini did not call him up within Italy for personal reasons, but there's been times where he's always thought that he was a better player or above everyone else. So I think in this case,
You know what the problem is? His manager, who is his mother.
his
That's-
mom.
The
that's
mother-
the
But
problem.
he's a grown kid. He's got a kid. He's a father. He can make his decision.
I know, but you need somebody to direct you. And yes, 23 years old.
Yeah, he's
He
young.
needs Wanda to be his
And
agent.
it's a couple of years. Maybe he was 21, 19, 20 years old. I think he never
Doesn't
had
make it. For me, it makes no sense.
he had no direction. To me.
Roma fans loved him. He had the 2 injuries that they always invested in him. They still stuck by him. You're playing. You got a coach that was sticking by you. It's not like if Mourinho was keeping him on the bench and he wasn't part of the project, I would understand.
Maybe
this.
there's a fallout
It would make
between
that's
them.
what I'm
He's immature. Maybe
But
he's immature.
it seemed like when you watch Mourinho's press conference, he seems like he's also trying to come to grasp to what happened. He's like, what do I do with a player who tells me he doesn't want to wear the shirt again? If when you listen to the tone of voice, so it's a weird situation.
He's not part
We'll
of the
find out
project
soon.
No, that's
anymore.
Yeah.
And the other thing, he has to move out of Rome because he won't be able to live in Rome.
He already
But-
did. You heard about it.
Gaetano,
moved?
He went to
Gaetano,
La Spezia because they chased him out of
Wow.
Yeah, he can. You can
Gaetano,
stay in Rome.
this is what
Wow.
sticks with me. The last thing about Zaniolo, with Karsdorp, I mean, it's a different player. He's been played out. In other words, hey, you're no longer a Roma within the Roma project. Karsdorp, he had a problem with Mourinho, and this thing here, he came out of the locker room and everybody was in the open.
Mourinho brought it out of the
Yeah,
locker room.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, I think the management on top, those 2 guys, the American guys, they said, hey, no more. Whatever happens on the locker room stays on the locker rooms. And whatever happened, I think it's still, there gotta be Mourinho involved too. Because if Mourinho was not involved in this thing here, Mourinho would have been called the kid and said, hey, let's go to have a beer together. Let's go to have a slice of pizza. Let's talk over.
we got-
Mourinho will have probably talked him out about that
Vespa.
stuff. Or maybe with a
Take a-
Vespa, or
take a
Bigliardino,
ride.
a football game or something like that.
Yeah.
He will have talked him out. I think
Listen,
Mourinho has got
Listen,
something
Mourinho must
to
have
do with
talked 100 times to him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know.
And couldn't get
The
through.
one
them.
one good thing I should say about Roma, nothing gets out of the locker room
Yeah, they're
lately.
very
It's when
professional.
they want it to. He's the one who brought Karsdorp
Yeah,
out. They're the ones who brought Zaniolo out. This is probably months in the making of something that it got to a head where they couldn't control it anymore. Let's move on. Let's talk about Milan. 5-2 loss against Sassuolo. 6 games in this 2023. Your only win is against Salernitana. It goes from bad to worse as I see a grin from Peter Curto on the side. A Sassuolo side, which to me, I was just checking the numbers because I used to love Sassuolo. I love the way that they played. They used to be so attacking last year. We know that they sold off all of their good strikers. Going into this game, the last time they scored 5 goals, it took them 9 games to get to 5 goals. And then they put 5 against who last year would have been the best defense in Italy. Anto, there's no point of going. We already spoke about it in the last podcasts about their problems, that it's very hard to put a pin on what it really is. Just as a Milan fan, are you surprised at what you're seeing at this point?
Well, I see that the system is no longer working because no, Mike, you're laughing. I mean, let me just explain to you. Magnan is no longer there. I'm not going to try to find any more excuses. Our 4-2-3-1 is no longer the system that is going to work. We have weakness on the goalkeeping and defense, so we need more coverage on the back. I think our team, it's 15-20 yards higher than where it's supposed to be because we do the attacking phase, we do it nicely, but when we have the defense, when somebody's doing the counter on us, we're always open we open like sieves. We're letting anybody go, even the small pieces that go through like nothing. So the system is no longer working, and Pioli, he has not recognized this. We are vulnerable on defense. We need an extra midfielder. Maybe a 4-3-3 could be a solution, or maybe a 4-4-2. Right now we are weak on the midfield. Even with Tonali and Benacer, they need help. We cannot really plug a big hole like that. And it's happening all the time. We're getting killed on the defense because everybody's going through the midfield like nothing. How the hell are you gonna make it through? You're going actually. They go to the goalkeeping straight. Defensively, we are a mess.
Are any doubts arising for you on Pioli's ability to manage the squad?
I think Pioli is not the only one that managed the squad. I think even Maldini is perplexed that they try to figure out the system. And I think you from the next game on, especially with Inter, you're not gonna have this 4-2-3-1. You're gonna have to be covered more on the midfield. You have the club. You have to just put another two bodies on the midfield that they're gonna be able to do the midfield work that right now is not there.
So the three of us, we had podcasts where we spoke about this. So I'll leave it to you two. If you have anything new on Milan, why you think it's happening.
And Leao, forget it.
It's of course difficult. And he dropped Leao in this match against Sassuolo, which, whether he's resting for the Milan game. What Peter, you're shaking your head. So what do you think?
Well, first off, I don't like him resting Leao because I kind of see it as he's the one to blame. Whereas it's been the whole team really that's been struggling. And, the defense has been in particular a point of weakness where, like you said, last year was one of the probably the strongest part of this Milan team and the ability to always fight back. And, the issue is the amount of goals that you're allowing even within the first half. Now, is it a concentration issue? Is it a tactical issue? Is it just a blackout and these players feeling as if they're no longer together as a unit? It's very hard to explain, but I do agree with what Antonio's saying. Maybe not to the effect of a 4-4-2, but you have to go back to fundamentals at a certain point where you're saying, "Hey, our objective is not to let in a goal, right? Let's tie a game 0-0." And then we build on that. So, to be more defensively sound rather than trying to score 3 goals a game. And I see this Milan team really struggling defensively, where going forward, they've relied on individual brilliance for a long time. And when these players such as Ateo, such as Leao, have not been able to step up this
Giroud
year,
as well,
even
prior to
Giroud
this last
prior to this
match.
goal, there's been issues now. Now, all of a sudden, you notice that this Milan team is vulnerable. But it also stems from the top. I want to say that the ownership that has come in,
Spent a dime.
they've spent only on CDK, who has been a bust, right, so far, and have not made any significant investment within this team, knowing that there's a problem defensively, knowing that there's a problem with what's going on, especially in this recent, these last 4 or 5 games.
Losing Kessie.
And you have this market right here to be able to say, hey, let me make a decision. Now, let's not forget, this group also bought Milan with a loan from Elliott. So the idea is understand, do you have a transfer budget available, and are you willing to make investments to this team to be able to secure Champions League? Because, I don't want to seem drastic, but there is a chance that you can miss out on Champions League. The points are right there.
We might very well
are right
miss.
there.
Which is crazy to even think about.
To even think about after
Scudetto
the year that they had
champions.
last year and how they started this season as well. Because up until the Roma game, where from 2-0 up, they ended up tied that game, it's gone completely downhill. So
Just to add, I mean, AC Milan was one of the youngest team in Europe, right? Last year, it's one of the youngest team, and last year everything went well for them. And when you're playing and everything goes well, and you play with confidence, and you build from game to game, it's everything is easier. I think this year, and like you said, they only beat Salernitana. These young players, I don't think maybe they cannot handle the pressure of San Siro. I mean, what happened to CDK? The guy is a good player. We saw some touches when he first got there that he knows the game, and now all of a sudden this guy disappears. So he's a young player. Maybe there's a little bit too much pressure on these young players. Nothing from Makers. He doesn't do anything. Messia doesn't do anything. CDK doesn't do anything. So
What do you think of Pioli though, Gaetano?
You need.
Honestly,
the thing that about Maldini, with the experience that Maldini has, they should be able to figure it out. I don't think it's the system that is not working. I don't know if you do 4-4-2 or if you do 4-2-3-1. It's just the players are not there. You don't have the players.
They're not performing.
They're not performing.
It's just so hard to say that because last year you think about they're the champions of Italy. So if you didn't know anything else, you would say they have to have the players. I do agree with you, and I think one of the things I heard Sadi talking about this in his press conference, which was mentally being fatigued after so many matches. And I sort of feel like that is what happened to this Milan. I think that they worked so hard for a goal last year. I think things really worked out in their favor. It wasn't what Maldini and the management and Pioli did was a borderline miracle to win the league last year. If we're being honest, in terms of quality on the field, they did not have the same quality and the transfer budget as the other teams, as Juventus, as Inter. And the fact that they weren't as good also fell into hands of Milan, but everything working out. And I think this year that sort of dwindled. And yeah, they have forgotten the basics. Again, we already mentioned it last week about Kessie, so there's no point in going back. Last thing for Anto, you have the derby on Sunday. The derby, it's often said a lot of times in Italy, like, form goes out the window because it's such an important match. Now, for you, do you see this as a positive or a negative?
It could be a positive for us.
You're going in at such a poor form, but do you think there's anything that this can actually help springboard you outside of this negativity?
Yeah, it can. It can become a positive because something might spring and get those guys on a different mental setting. Because right now the mental setting is right there. Last year we overachieved. Okay, everybody is agreeing with that. This year we are underachieving because of what we did last year. Okay, so I think this game is coming at the right time for us to maybe put all the pieces of the puzzle together and then just look back and say, hey, what is it that we were doing right last year and that this year is not working? It could be the formation. It could be that we don't have all the pieces on the puzzle. Some of them are broken. We have Tomori broken. We have Calabria now 100%. Let's make the best of what we have right now and let's put a team on the field that I can compete face to face with Inter, because this could be the turning point for us. If we lose, even on a great game, that could be a spark for us to say, hey, the team is there, let's fight. Mm-hmm. But if we get slapped around with the way we got slapped around by Sassuolo, I think Milan is done with the Champions League. Done, 100%. Okay, we are done with we need at least to tie. If we lose the game against Inter and we lose poorly, because you can lose 2-1, 3-2, whatever, or 2-0, but the fight has to be there. Mm-hmm. If you don't show me Sunday that you are fighting, that you are worth wearing the uniform, because that uniform has got a lot of weight on. You got all San Siro. When I started to see the last 15 minutes of the people on the 4-2 starting to leave the stand, that was depressing. When an AC Milan fans starting to leave, that means
they gave up.
Yeah. They cannot take it anymore. So this is a motivational game for us. It's a spark that I can just get all the group, the tifosi and the squad itself together. And Pioli has to show balls and guts to just change things around. I'm sure Maldini's working with him. They gotta do something.
I'm with you, and I think that when you think back to last year, Milan were the underdogs in the derby. I think a lot of people always had Inter winning it, and even in the Coppa Italia, I remember watching 3-0 Inter beat Milan in the Coppa Italia last year. I'm saying now they beat you in the Supercoppa, but in the league, you always had their number. And in the league, in the first match, the 3-2 sensational match. I do think that this could be the moment. Everyone needs to get back together and to find that spirit, because last year you did have the quality, so it's impossible for that to have left. Let's talk about Juventus. Lost 2-0 to Monza. It was a day of absolute upsets, except for Napoli, because they're just too perfect. Juventus lost to Monza twice this season. They played them 3 times. One was the Coppa Italia, which they won. But 2 games. The first time that Palladino came in, he got their first win ever in the history of Monza in Serie A. Their first game was against Juventus. Now he goes to Turin. And I have to say, the way that they played too, it's spectacular. They had their number. They tactically were perfect against Juventus. They have players with some really great quality. We already knew Monza in the beginning of the year, they were underachieving because they had a better squad. But Palladino coming in as a young coach, people thought he was an interim coach. They said, all right, he's just finishing out the season. Galliani said, I've taken risks before. I put Sacchi in when people thought I was crazy. He compared Palladino to that. And maybe we do have a nice young Italian coach coming in, because the ideas that Monza had were great. With that being said, Juventus, total disaster. If they didn't lose enough points with the 15, this one I think was one of the really depressing moments, because if you think about it, it was supposed to be a really happy day for them. They finally were getting Pogba back into the lineup, at least on the bench. Vlahovic returns on the bench. They're playing in Torino, in Juventus Stadium. Everything was lined up for that. The lineup, I think, tactically was terrible with De Sciglio on the right wing. We could speak about that, but I don't know. Whoever watched the game, what did you guys think?
Listen, I got my witness over here, Bocca di Fuoco, Enrico. I was so
Don't give
down.
last names.
No, I was down. I was so down and depressed after the 5-2. I had to get up at 5 o'clock. Actually, I was up since 3:30 in the morning. I was watching Tsitsipas getting his ass kicked by Djokovic on the Australia Open. I said, but how do you bring this thing up? Since 3:30 in the morning, I never turned the TV off. I watched the AC Milan game. AC Milan gets slapped around by Sassuolo 5-2. And then Enrico said, a Villabate stai andando? I said, yeah, let's go. So we go to Villabate, and Mani, the owner, is a Juventus fan. The first thing that I see Mani making fun of me. And then I said, oh my God. I said, Ando, cinque pappine means five croissant, one after the other.
Cinque palmi,
I
baby.
said, oh, cinque palmi. So I said, okay. So me and Enrico, we're going in for the usual coffee and the croissant. And then we
guy's
go
telling
on
us
the
to order.
screen. We go on the screen. I see Juventus 0, Monza 2. I said, Hats. I went to see Mani. If I could find Mani disappeared. So that means misery loves company. That what made my day a little better, and I was able to put myself together because Gaetano at the last minute invited me to go to Ribalta, and I had to go, and I thank God actually invited me. I went to witness Napoli's win and all the tifosi. What a great group of people.
Gotcha.
And on top of everything, the
let's
I
move on.
promised them I will mention them. The Raffaele, those are the best. Okay.
Okay, now Juventus.
Juventus. Okay, Juventus.
No. You talk ahead. Let's get everybody
Sorry,
else.
I don't
Let's
care.
get
I don't
everybody
care
else.
about the rest. To me, Juventus lost. It made my day.
Pete.
I'm less miserable.
To be quite honest, I think Antonio puts it perfect. Where it's like, it's a total disaster. It's like just a trash can that's on fire and keeps on burning.
Yeah.
And it's like, you as a Juventus fan especially, I think it's very tough to deal with certain results. Like, you can accept not winning the Scudetto, you can accept that the team is not going through its best time, but you cannot lose in a manner in which that Juventus have lost this years. At a Juventus stadium that before used to be a fortress that you never would lose, and now you're getting, not slapped around, but you're losing to these little players of Monza, that this is their first year in Serie A, right? The bottom dwellers. And they're able to beat the royalty, let's say, of Serie A.
Air quotes.
So,
What are you looking up over there?
so
What you got for us?
Well, he's depressed.
He's
So
looking at
he's looking all
he's
the
looking at the
numbers.
highlights.
What are you looking
Yo,
at?
you didn't look good either. You didn't look either on the half
Some
time.
results.
Oh, okay,
You
go ahead.
finish?
yeah, pretty much it.
Yeah.
Juventus, it is what it is.
So this Juventus team drives me crazy, and Allegri drives me crazy. I mean, this 3-5-2, I don't like it. You put Di Maria as a forward. Why? I don't understand Di Maria as a forward. I mean, you got Keane, you got Vlahovic, you got Milik, you got so many other players. You want to play with two forwards? Can you put two real forwards up there? What are you afraid of? You're playing home and you're playing against Monza. But put two forwards up there if you want two forwards. And then the three in the back, to me, it's better, I think, for Juventus if you play the 4-3-3 or you play the 4-4-2. You play the 4-3-3, you put the two wings, you put Di Maria on one side, you put the other kid on the other side, or you put Sule or Cuadrado, Chiesa. Well, Chiesa was not available, but I'm saying if it's better if you play the 4 with these two guys that they can dribble, they can always beat their man and then cross the ball. Or you play the 4-4-2 and you still got the two wings that they're going to go down and make a nice cross. And you got two forwards up there. You got Vlahovic and Keane, you got Vlahovic and Milik, you got Vlahovic. Come on. It's just... it's very, very disappointing. He made some changes on the second half. He had the Erling on one side. He had Sule on the other side. I don't know. Pogba, why didn't Pogba play?
That was
Pogba, he never put him in.
He knows he's damaged good right now. The guy, even though they're sitting on the bench, is damaged good, Marco.
I mean, he was available
if he's
to play.
ready, if he's on the bench, he's ready
yeah,
to
he
play.
was. He was called.
He just chose not
He
to
didn't
play.
want to
Right.
play him. But I feel like, to be honest, I just feel like are they giving up? I don't know. I feel like there's so much going on. I don't know if it was the 15-point deduction that was like a punch in the stomach.
Nah, they lost the first game against Monza.
I don't know.
6 points.
We've watched this Juventus because I think it's too easy to say that. We've watched this Juventus do this in how many games this season where they do the same thing. For me, what it comes down to is when they concede first. We kept saying, like, when they win Cremonese,
But why they play so
they're
mediocre?
0-0. Then they do good. When they concede first, they have no reaction. They don't know how to get back into a game.
I don't think I think it's Allegri's ideas and how it is. Just because you concede, you shouldn't be able to fall apart if you have that many quality players. You can't allow that, especially when you know a team or your direct rival Milan losing. You gotta go out and that should motivate you even more. And instead you lose 2-0 against Monza. There's a lack of motivation. There's lack of ideas. Allegri is not capable to be a coach. He should have been sacked long ago. And yes, they're going to lose money or whatever, but they're going to lose more money if they don't make top 4.
Now top 4. As Allegri said, they're calculating points to not get relegated because they're in 13th or 14th
But
place.
even before the deduction, I'm saying, I just feel like it's the same idea.
Before the
That's what
deduction,
I
they're
mean.
there. They're in they're 38 points, so
Yeah,
they're right there in second place,
Yeah.
I believe, or
Third
third
place,
place, right?
They-
Because someone's on 40.
Also, they did confirm that they're going to appeal for the
Of course,
thing.
yeah. But
They're
I
not going to
think
get anything back.
I think it comes down
Yeah,
to tactically the formation. I totally agree with the 3-5-2.
Do you think Allegri should say, though? You think he's the future?
Right now?
No,
But then
for
what
the
they're
end of the
gonna get?
season.
No, end of the season. But we got to focus on right now. End of the season, we don't know what's going to happen. Is this team going to be in Champions League? Are they going to be in Europe at all? There's still a lot of questions. We can't determine that. Right now, he's a coach. He has to say. It's impossible to get another coach. No. My thing is just, I think you need to change your attitude on this 3-5-2. I totally agree with that. I mean, Gatti is not a player for Serie A. People got excited from him. De Sciglio as a right wing back, give me a break. It's that those parts to me are crazy. I think you do need to switch to the 4-3-3, and they need to have a hard look in the mirror about what's important to them and how they play this style. He uses a 3-5-2 because he has this low block. He defends with 5-3-2. Don't concede, don't concede, don't concede. But guess what? When you got a team that attacks you and scores first, that's where you're in trouble. That part is so obvious. And then also, you look at Rovella, who they let go of. Rovella, in both games, dominated. He was better than any midfielder Juventus had, Rovella.
I think there's an identity crisis with this Juventus, and obviously there's been a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and with the management and so on. So there's been a lot of drama, let's say, with Juventus. But on the field, especially where you have, like Mike said, quality players, they should not be going out, versus a Monza. Maybe you can lose a game, but not in that manner and not in the way that they've been losing games. And this season, I mean, Allegri has just proven to be a coach that he needs stellar players in order to be able to win. And, the time that he did win was during a time when there was no real competition. And I think now what we notice with a lot of these younger coaches implementing their systems with these smaller teams are not going there to just tie a game. They're going there and they're going to play their style of football. So Juventus, I think, going back to the identity crisis, it's, hey, we need to rebuild. We won the 9 Scudetti in the past, and they need to be able to rebuild.
How long have we been hearing this for?
But it hasn't been the.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not
right now they're beyond the rebuild.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that last year in the summer, right? If you're rebuilding, you don't go after a Pogba.
Di Maria.
Maybe you don't go after Di Maria.
I don't necessarily. No, I don't agree with that.
I think you have to be able to have the younger players coming in. You get one.
I think it's a balance of the two.
Yeah,
the best teams in the world, they still have those sorts of players.
You're contradicting, though, bro.
For me, it's not about wrong that they went for Pogba or they went for Di Maria. Di Maria is not the problem. Di Maria is the only solution that Juventus has. It's everything else that's gone into Juventus, for me, that's a problem. Bringing back Allegri, which his tactics, the style that he plays. Letting go of certain youngsters that they should have. The team is built completely imbalanced.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But the expectations of you bringing in Pogba and Di Maria is to say, we're going to go push for the Scudetto and we have to go far in Champions League.
That was the goal.
And also Allegri Getting
That was the
Allegri,
goal,
it's
though.
not to rebuild. It's to say, okay, we got to
keep
just
it, yeah, to
keep it
keep it
1-0 and win the games because that's all that counts. But then you have these issues now where things are not working out. And like you said, you have younger players that have left. The younger players that have come in this year have been more of a spark, Fagioli, Miretti, than the other players that you have.
Pete, Marco said it before perfectly. Let me just add a few things to what he said. AC Milan and Juventus, they're suffering of the same problem. We've been figuring out. A lot of teams, they play us high. They do not step back and counter on us. They attacking Juventus, they attack AC Milan. They are positioned on AC Milan midfield. They're not waiting on the back. AC Milan is being watched. They watch it at the tape. They figure what the problem is. They know where the holes are and they know where to come in. Juventus has got the same problem. He's right. They don't score first. Then everything opens up and everybody goes through that.
They do not. The team is not capable of adapting
Nothing.
to different situations.
They
You
don't.
watch Napoli, and obviously Napoli's in a different league, so it's not even to compare them. It's just about that good teams and teams that are built in different ways. They could adapt to when they concede first. They could adapt to physical matches. They could adapt within their own games. That's the problem also with a coaching issue
That's what it goes down to,
of
though.
Max. But the way that they start games, and that's why when they won all those 8 games in a row, we said, yes, you got to give them praise because they won the games.
Yeah.
But when you look a little bit deeper, the whole point is a couple of times, I don't remember if it was Cremonese or
it
another
was
team,
Cremonese,
they hit the
right.
post. They hit 2-3 posts where if that ball goes in, can they come back?
Okay, but
Anyway,
it's part of the game. But yeah, but he has
it's part
to
of the
adapt,
game. But now you're seeing the
yeah.
opposite effect.
I know, but
you got beat by
as
Monza.
a coach, that's making you gotta adapt to. You don't have small players. You have great players on that team.
But they can't.
And that's what it goes down. That's why majority of the blame is Allegri at the end of the day.
It's also
So
the
we're
players
saying
because
building all
you
this
watch
thing,
Paredes.
Allegri's not the kind of coach that's gonna do that. Now, why is he still there?
It also comes down to the players.
that's what
I mean,
I
you see
think.
Paredes. Paredes was walking around for the entire start of the from
Isn't
start
that
to finish.
Allegri's fault though? Why do you have him
Paredes
in?
walking?
Why do you have a player like that in?
Paredes played great coming into this. He was doing really good things.
Bro, a lot of these go down to
Paredes was doing really great.
You can't
There's a
allow
lot of
that.
players on Juventus, even Locatelli, who has one game that he'll do really good. The next game he goes down. I mean, yes, it's part of coaching to put everyone in the right position to succeed, but it's also the players have to have
No,
a
I get that,
self-reflection
100%.
in themselves
Yeah.
because he can't run for Paredes. He looked like he didn't want to even be there.
Yeah, Rabiot is,
Anyway, we'll move on.
Rabiot, I think
We
is
could talk about hours about this.
Inter, you won this weekend against Cremonese. Lautaro has been amazing. Probably the only player that's been saved for your team.
Not bad.
We're deep into the podcast. Skriniar has been the big talking point. You're once seen as future captain, a man who definitely loved the club.
Yeah.
Weird transaction from the summer where they decided not to sell him. Worked on renewing. It seemed like they were going to get the renewal. It seemed like everyone was going to be in agreement. Now it's gotten so bad that he's not going to wear the captain's armband. The PSG is still trying to be able to sign him this January, and you don't want to let him go for 10 million because you're in risk for the rest of the season. You can't get a proper center back. What do you make of this situation?
Yeah, it's a mismanagement on Inter in the same way that we, might have talked about the Milan debacle where you lose Donnarumma, you lose Kessié, you lose all these players and not get anything in return. At the same time, the discussion has been that Inter's management were the ones to bring a PSG offer to Milan Skriniar's attention to say, hey, we're putting you on the market because you're the one with the most value that we will be able to sell. And I think at that point, Milan Skriniar realized that, hey, if it's not me, it's the other person. And unfortunately, I have to look what's right for myself because I'm dispensable. So at that point, I think that's when things kind of got a little rocky, where he didn't know what was gonna happen in the summer. And then at a certain point, when you see certain numbers PSG can offer, right, the player obviously has a little bit of leverage at that point because he knows in June, or not even in June, because starting February 1st, he can sign the contract with PSG.
He did already.
Officially, it's February 1st, but he can sign the contract with another team, to be able to go for free. Okay, and at that point,
5 minutes. February for 5 minutes.
and at that point, be able to move. Now, Inter are left in a situation where, unfortunately, we don't have the money to be able to just say, okay, we'll let you go for free. We'll find somebody else for 25, 30 million. At this point, I really hope that PSG want Skriniar desperately to be able to raise the offer from 10 to 15.
You want to lose him now in January?
Well, the thing is,
you're going to risk your season.
Yeah, I don't think we risk the season.
They got nothing.
I don't think we risk a season because
Well, you're going to play
They're
DeVry
not
at
winning the
Cherby.
Scudetto.
But they're still not secure for top 4, and you
We're
still
not.
got Champions
No,
League.
we're not.
Inter is not secure
We're
for
not.
top 4.
We're not.
They're gonna get top
But I think you have to look on a long picture
Yeah.
where it's you rather have the 10, 15 million to be able to use that to spend on a future player than lose a player for free and kind of lose out on being able to have some spending.
You're going to
money.
lose more money if you don't go to the next round of the Champions League. You're going to lose more money if you get knocked out of the Coppa Italia. If you don't get top 4 in
Listen,
Serie A,
It's
even
hard
your
for them
position.
to not get top 4. Inter's
No,
still
it's not
very
that
good.
hard.
It is,
I mean,
dude.
you've got so many teams: Lazio, Roma, Atalanta. If Juventus get their 15 points
that's
back,
very-
Marco,
Milan.
That's
Marco,
very
the
likely.
problem-
You gotta play
Listen,
your cards. You
no,
gotta play your cards.
No, it's a good chance that Inter could get kicked out of a Champions League.
Well, it's
That
a better
100%.
chance. I'm saying you gotta
No, but
play
what I-
percentage
Without
wise.
Skriniar, you believe in that defense.
I believe in Darmian, who I think
not a defender.
through everything, he's been
He's
amazing.
a wing.
When he comes in and he plays in that 3, he can play. Okay, Darmian, D'Ambrosio. I'm not saying it's the best, but you're able
does a job.
to do it to maintain the Champions League spot. I feel. I don't think we go farther past. If we can, we beat Porto, but then farther than that, I don't think Inter will be able to reach realistically. And the Scudetto race is gone. So at this point, I think a Darmian can be a fix if you're able to get 15 million. Also, you're not even thinking that Skriniar, if he's gonna be on that pitch, the Inter fans are not gonna let him go scot-free. So you're gonna have a problem within a locker
You have
room.
a
You're
point.
gonna have a problem on the field where every time Skriniar touches the ball,
That's true,
he's gonna be an enemy. Okay, so it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic as well. Obviously, there's only one more day left, so it either happens or it doesn't happen. As Antonio said, 5 minutes.
5 minutes left.
Listen, let me just say, be very honest with you. Skriniar or no Skriniar, we're talking about 10 games, 10, 12 games. All right, that he can play.
No, more than 10
games, 18 games. Okay, so you want to monetize this guy now? You want to monetize this guy here now for the chance for you to invest on what? You say with 10 millions will do the job for you? Yes or no?
No.
Doesn't do the job.
How much?
But it's better than nothing. 15 maybe?
Spit. How much? How much?
Inter want 20 million.
20 million.
PSG's offering 10.
My ass.
Maybe there's
Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. He was right. I hate to say it, but he was right. You got the Champions League. You got the
What are they
Campionato.
gonna do in the Champions League even with Skriniar?
You're getting money.
You have to go.
You're
They're
getting
playing
money.
Porto.
So
How
you
far
have
are
the
they gonna
Champions
go?
League going
You
on.
make money every game
have
that you
the
win.
Coppa Italia. You have too much still on the table for you to
course.
give up on this guy here for 20 million. You're not gonna get the 20 million, so you might as well keep the guy and let him go. Guess what? What goes around comes around. You were laughing at Donnarumma, Kessier, and all the stuff.
They're gonna get the money for him. Probably.
I don't know
No,
about
they're
that.
not
They're not gonna go for. He's not going for
There's only
free.
one day. The likelihood of
You don't think it's gonna
Mike,
happen?
Mike, we are 5
In the
minutes
middle?
away, Mike.
Yeah,
if I don't
you're
hear
right.
that phone call, if I don't hear my phone ringing, it's over.
It's not
we'll
seeming.
see.
It's not seeming likely that PSG are going to raise
No,
their
I don't
offer.
think. I don't think they do either. But
Because I mean, for them, they wait a couple months and they pay nothing compared to why would they spend 20 million?
But the last
only-
few hours of
Are you
Mercado
kidding
gets
me?
desperate.
For
You
what?
never know.
the only thing
We'll
is
see,
that
we'll see.
if it's any team, it's PSG that would spend the money because they just want the
Last
player.
second.
Yeah, just
And they also, I think, have to keep in mind that the Champions League this year is their objective. They don't care about anything else, but they
That's
have to
true.
win the Champions League.
That's true.
And Messi still has not signed the renewal, so there's a chance that if you want to win with
They
Messi,
go
this is
full.
the time to do it because you never know what can
Be the
happen.
thing that tips
But
them over
Pete,
from
you
the-
can't-
But as a defender,
Hey,
What are you
hey,
saying?
you telling me?
No, there's no. They took out the
Pete,
rules. It's
you're
not
telling
cup
me
tie
that you're
anymore.
gonna plug
Yeah.
you're gonna plug Skriniar on the PSG defense and you're gonna win the Champions League?
I don't think-
I didn't say
I don't
that.
think Skriniar
I'm
does
saying
much to
I'm
improve
saying
their
if
chances.
PSG,
It's a good reinforcement, regardless.
if it's any team, PSG will be the one to put the money
Okay.
on the table.
What
That's
do you think about the situation?
No
You
comment.
don't care.
Thank
Okay,
you.
cool. It's not worth it.
Mike, Gaetano, how many minutes we have for Skriniar?
Last thing, let's talk about Lazio. They tied 1-1 against Fiorentina. A Lazio who was high flying. My dad advised me not to bet on Lazio to win. He was right.
He's always right, your father.
This Lazio is so
Except when he's
frustrating to me, and I'm making a rule that I'm not betting on them and I'm not betting on Roma. Because every time I bet on them, I get screwed. Every single time it happens, consistently with them two. Lazio, they do this amazing match against Milan. We've seen this before, and when I was reading Sarri's press conference, I thought the same thing. He's talking about mental fatigue and mentally being drained from so many different games. And Lazio, the one thing, the direct matchups, they've done great. They beat Inter. They beat Atalanta. They beat Milan. They beat Roma. They beat a few different teams. The big moments, they've actually come through. But then they'll lose to Salernitana. And they'll tie Udinese. And they'll tie, I believe, Torino. There's a lot of those smaller games where maybe concentration goes down for them. But after they scored the first goal, and it came from their center back, Casale, there was really not much from this Lazio side. And if you look at the flip, because of course the focus is on Lazio because of how great they are, but Fiorentina played an unbelievable game. It was a thrilling match nonetheless. Fiorentina attacking, pushing forward, pressing, forcing Lazio to lose so many balls in a midfield that we say at times is the best midfield in the world. Fiorentina came out fighting. They still missed that center forward, that proper center forward to put the ball into the back of the net. Nico Gonzalez, love the goal that he scored. He's a game changer for them. Love even afterwards a celebration saying, I'm here, I'm staying. He doesn't want to go to Leicester City. He's going to stay in Florence. Great match, but I am very disappointed in Lazio.
I mean, we can talk about this all the time. All the times we say how inconsistent they are. So the same quote as my good friend Gaetano would say, no comment for
Anybody?
Lazio.
Anybody got
listen. If that, I was hoping for my buddy Joe, if they didn't hit the crossbar.
Milankovic?
Yeah.
At the
Oh,
end.
yeah. That was
Fiorentina.
That was an open net.
Unbelievable.
That was an open net.
Fiorentina.
Fiorentina probably deserved to win.
Yeah.
Could have come out
they
with a
deserved
win.
it,
And
yeah.
for me,
They
it
played
would have
better.
been a personal revenge because we got slapped by Lazio 3-0.
4-0, wasn't it?
3-0.
Wasn't it 4? It was definitely 4-0.
I remember
Four was
only
nothing?
3.
Yeah, it was 4.
All right, say
Yeah,
4-0.
maybe 4.
Bottom line is, like you
You're
just
like, don't
said,
check, don't
He
check.
turned the TV
don't
off.
Don't check,
please.
don't check.
Bottom line is they deserve, because if they would have won against Fiorentina, they would have overtaken AC Milan. So
But
between
they-
Roma,
4-0.
between Roma and Lazio, AC Milan is still
Yeah.
Okay.
tied up with them.
Anything
So
about the game?
No, just a couple of words about Fiorentina.
Great job.
I'm impressed by the possession of the ball. I mean, even they had like 60% possession in the first half. And the way they move the ball around, that's Italiano that he knows how to put the team on the field. So that was what I was impressed by them. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
And
I
what
think-
about the big show on the Paramount Plus with the Joe Barone and Commisso and all the stuff? That was beautiful. Well done. Spectacular.
No, I was gonna say with Fiorentina they needed a response right after the 2 games that you lose, and I think Italiano I still believe in him. I think he's one of the better young coaches within the league. The unfortunate thing is the proof is in the pudding. I think that's one of your phrases, but they have no striker to finish. There's nobody up there that's gonna be able to score the goal. You know,
They don't have Vlahovic.
and I think Brecolo, which is a transfer signing this year, is an amazing signing because he's done so well. He did well with Torino, and I think he can add an extra piece.
He's another
within-
winger,
He's
isn't he?
another winger. That's the only thing.
That's a one thing I'm so
Yeah,
confused
but
about.
I
A lot
think-
of similar players.
You call it because to
Come on,
tell you the
man.
truth, aside from Nico Gonzalez, who hasn't been consistent enough, everybody else is
Their wingers aren't
up
good
and
enough.
down, up and
But
down.
quality-wise, he's the best of the bunch, Nico Gonzalez.
Nico Gonzalez is the guy that he should be scoring 7 goals, 5 assists
He's
a
on
season.
3
Like
right
he
now.
should be on top of it. But up top, it's just
He also needs a striker also to get those
no.
assists,
You need to
though.
be able to. but
Jovic isn't the player that they expected him to be.
But I'm sorry, Jovic only had 1 good season when he was in Frankfurt.
He was
okay,
that was an
Eintracht.
incredible season.
4 years ago. Okay,
Yeah.
After that, even though he's a Real Madrid player,
Yeah, but it
he's
was
not
hard
going to
for Real
solve.
Madrid. It
Yeah, I
was tough.
understand,
It's
but
not
he's
easy.
not going to solve anything. He hasn't been able to do anything. And then Cabral coming from a Swiss
Cabral.
league,
He did
is a
good
whole
there,
nother
though,
is a
but
whole nother league. So it's like a lot of these times I've noticed like these teams they jump on the player that scores a massive amount of goals, but you got to see the consistency in these players. When the player is able to score 15 to 10, 15 goals in 3-4 seasons, then you say, okay, this guy knows how to find the net.
It's a gamble.
When a guy comes in and Piontek scores 25 goals and pam 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 pam. You get Milan spending all the money, and then nothing ends up happening.
Sanabria would be a nice low-cost
I
option
love
for
him.
them.
I love him.
Sanabria,
Low cost?
I think
He's
he's
gonna be very good.
Low cost, yeah,
He's gonna be
because
so low.
he's not really
What's his-
playing at Torino because he's linked to a move to Lazio.
Did he
is
come
the
back
big
from an
thing.
injury too?
Yeah, but
recently?
he's been linked with Lazio in terms of other places that he could go. I think he's a low cost option if they could get him last minutes of the mercato. I also want to say Fiorentina's midfield is beautiful. They've got Jack Bonaventura, who looks like their biggest threat sometimes in goal. They put in Mandragora, who is a great player at Torino. Amrabat is still there. Barak is an
Barak is spectacular.
He's extremely
Don't they have another
talented.
player? His name is Stu Gaetano.
You thought he was gonna fall for
What's
that?
his last name? What's his last name? I
No,
know.
I think I heard somebody Stu. But anyway, funny that you were talking about Peter, about Fiorentina needs a striker. Every time they get a big strikers, Juventus comes and snatch them. Vlahovic was taken away from them. Chiesa was taken away from them. You shouldn't be the one telling that they need the
Baggio.
strikers, because every time they get a good
Do I
one,
decide anything?
you take a one. Yeah,
Well, listen, I think just to make a point, maybe not in January, but Atalanta have 3 strikers. Hoyland is the starter.
Yeah.
Zapata, Muriel, maybe return from Muriel, but Zapata will be the guy that Fiorentina
Zapata,
can go
What happened to
I think
for.
he-
Zapata?
he'll
What
leave.
happened to Zapata, man?
No, nothing happened. The guy Hoyland is amazing.
5 goals.
Man, I miss
Hoyland.
Zapata.
4 in
Man.
2023.
But even if you watch how he plays,
He's good.
He's extremely
this guy
talented.
is
But Lukman,
unbelievable.
also Lukman, you forgot about Zapata and Muriel. They are not the symbols of Atalanta anymore. The symbols are Lukman and Hoyland. They're the future of the club.
Yeah.
Lukman, for me, after Kvaratskhelia, is the best signing in Serie A.
And let me tell you, the sporting director Sartori left to Bologna, who I think is one of the better ones. But Tony D'Amico, who's the director of
He sounds like a guy that owns a pizzeria in Brooklyn.
but he's a director now at Atalanta, and he got Hoyland and Lukman. You know, and
Who did
really
Tony?
D'Amico, and he was coming from Hellas Verona, who, by the way, you know, sold
Simeone.
Barak, Simeone,
Caprari.
Amrabat, all these top players that he was able to get.
Okay.
So he's another guy that I think should be on the top of a lot of these.
Yeah, these
people,
guys are
side
like
conversations over here.
5-year-olds.
Mama,
My God, yo, you know what? You can. I know. I never went to school with you. I did go to school
Oh
with
my
you.
God, I can
You
imagine
know
these
like
things.
that.
when the teachers were talking in class, these two little, they were like 13-year-old
Well, I think he was
girls
wearing
speaking
the
to
you were
each
wearing the
other.
dunce hat.
Why do you
No.
have to, why do you have to be girls?
No, it's just like gossiping, you know.
No, but Mike is the one just listen.
I've seen you do the same thing.
One time.
What's up?
We're going.
You
He's
guys
already
are the
blaming
exact
me.
same
It's
person.
reminding me about Stam. We used to play for AC Milan. Stam. You remember Stam? You know Stam? Hey, you know Stam, Stam.
All right.
Can we close? Nicky boy, it's all over. Wait,
Too close. Well, I think we all miss a little bit of Ludovico. which
Yeah,
we haven't seen
definitely.
in
We had him a
debate.
couple weeks
What is
ago.
he gonna come out now?
No. I think for Ludovico we should sing a song.
Yeah, what's the song?
Okay.
Oh, we know the song.
Oi vita mia, oi core, hai visto gore, sei stata lo primo amore, lo primo e l'ultimo sarai per me. Ludovico!
Let's go, vitamina, no vitamina. Nicky, got it, Nick.